The White House says the so-called Big Beautiful Bill signed by President Donald Trump on July 4th is a once-in-a-generation piece of legislation. But critics say the spending cuts will result in the deepest restructuring of food assistance in decades, raising work requirements and shifting funding burdens from the federal government to the states. They warn the changes could strip benefits for millions of vulnerable Americans, including veterans, children aging out of foster care, and others relying on the food stamp program known as SNAP.
SNAP is the most effective program that we have in the United States for reducing food insecurity rates. There's lots of data that suggests that people enrolled in SNAP have about a 20 to 30% reduced risk of food insecurity. So we expect that cuts to SNAP are going to result in increased food insecurity rates in the United States.
That could mean heavier reliance on food banks, which are also being targeted by the same law.
Unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is also increased strain on food banks and food pantries because this same Big Beautiful Bill also defunds many of those programs. And so what you're likely to see is that people are going to have to start going without.
Not everyone agrees the legislation will worsen hunger. One professor believes the real threat to food security may be tariffs.
I just don't foresee changes to SNAP having a large impact on food insecurity over at least the next couple of years. I think that there's a lot of other things going on that we should be talking about that aren't necessarily part of this bill that we need to be talking about. The first thing is tariffs. Tariffs can be, in essence, a tax that are predominantly borne by low-income Americans. Okay, I think tariffs can do some real damage in terms of leading to higher food prices.
Gunderson is more worried about the exclusion of the most vulnerable groups.
The group that we don't talk nearly enough about that has the highest rates of food insecurity, is most vulnerable, are those with disabilities, especially those with mental health disabilities.
Critics warn the changes to some of the benefits and the eligibility criteria will deepen hunger. Others argue certain economic incentives could offset the damage. But with food insecurity rising nationwide, the stakes for many in the country have never been higher. Ediz, Tiyansan, CGTN, Los Angeles.